Good morning and many thanks for staying with us here on Morning at NTV. Those that went with us into the break, if you're just joining us, welcome on board. The Kickstarter is right underway and we shall be examining the leadership in the legal profession and exploring what is being described as servant leadership for lawyers. Of course, this discussion comes in the backdrop of the election of Isaac Chimaze Ssemakadde as the new president of the Uganda Law Society. His candidature came as a shock. His eccentric way of speech and mannerisms is also still unsettling some within the establishment. There are those who are saying it is a timely disruption to a profession that has long kept matters to itself, the way of doing things, but is it the right time for the disruption? I have with me a set of lawyers who will be helping us dissect the issues as we have seen them over the last week, and whether it's the beginning of a new age and the turning of a page in the right direction. Whether he will succeed as president also remains to be seen. There are those elements within the profession who say he is too brash and sometimes arrogant. Is he? You've seen some of the clips, especially those that he has spoken about this sloganeering that he has adopted as the very best thing that should be happening to the legal fraternity. Lawyers are usually very debonair guys who dress exceptionally well. The fact that he chose to be eccentric and go for dress codes that are apparently wayward to some was in itself very unnerving. I'm joined on set by a lawyer himself, George Musisi. He's been with us several times. I do not know how uncomfortable or comfortable he is with the presidency of Isaac Chimaze Ssemakadde. I'll pose that question to him. Counsel Musisi,
yes,
are you one of the people who are unsettled by Isaac Ssemakadde?
Good morning to our viewers. Good morning, Chris, and pleasure to be here. Yeah. Of course, the beauty of democracy is that it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
President Isaac is a result of a democratic process.
Okay.
So he has a duty to lead us for the next 1 or 2 years.
Maybe before you continue, my apologies for halting you in your tracks. Allow me introduce Milton Ochen. He's also our guest this morning. You're most welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
Very first time to host you on Morning at NTV.
Thank you.
All right, please.
Yeah, so I was saying that it's a product of a democratic process, and for us lawyers, just like Rotarians, when a president begins a term, you are sure that after 1 year or after 2 years, you are certain that they will go. It's not like Uganda where you're not so certain. So for those who like him or don't like him, he's our president, and we can only rally behind him.
That's right.
I have had, of course, Uganda Society is a result of an act, so we are conscripted, or advocates are conscripted to be in Uganda Society. It's not an option, so we don't have an option. He's our president, and we have to rally and support him, and at least we are certain that at some point he will go. There are timelines for the ULS presidency.
I like the word play. We are certain at a certain point he will go.
Yeah.
To the layman that I am, that tells me that there are many who are thinking this is a chapter that we must forget. But anyway, what do you make of it, Milton Ochen?
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. I like the choice of words by my learned brother George. It's an element of safeguard that regardless of how the president-elect Ssemakadde performs, there's a timeline within which he will have to go. So that's very important for purposes of democracy. And what is important also is that regardless of what regardless of what issues came up during the campaigns, at the end of the day, the will of the people, and this is this is the hallmark of democracy, that the will of the people at the end of the day prevails. Ssemakadde as a candidate, of course, ran on like you said, the slogans and what and so on, the back on track, bang the table. Some people along the way, in my view, misunderstood his message. For example, the issue of bang the table is something that is taken from, in my understanding, is taken from the judicial tradition of a judge having that wooden that wooden hammer.
That's right.
When there is disorganization in court, the judge picks and bangs the table and order in the court, in the court.
Yeah.
So this, it represents a disruption in the affairs to bring some change, to bring some order, hence what it calls back on track. And I think that is very important. So that is what, in my view, it represents. But we shall discuss more.
No doubt. Thank you very much for what is no doubt an eye-opener, especially for those that are not within the workings of the legal fraternity, to understand that banging the table is a restoration of order. Some had thought that it's a case of being rowdy and coming and completely becoming a nuisance. But let's take it from that point, and allow me to stay with you on this. If there is need for a return to order, what is the disorder?
Well, what I can say is that it may not necessarily be a disorder. Let me put it this way.
Okay.
I have been in practice for about 15 years, and I'm drawing from my experience as a member.
Yeah.
Other lawyers are more senior than me, others are young. But I'll tell you that the majority come from the young lawyers. They constitute the bigger numbers.
That's right.
If you compare, in the past, LDC would have a class of 20. It went on to a class of 100. And now we are talking about thousands as an institution passing out lawyers to enroll. So there's a shift. The numbers have grown. The population is growing. Things cannot stay the same. But to be precise to what you're saying is that different presidents in the past have run under different agendas. If you look at the Law Society Act, we do have the objects under Section 3, which are a wide range of objects that we are supposed to, as a law society, our purpose, our objective in society, and being a statutory body, these are statutory provisions, and they're wide. What I mean is that a particular president will come and pick what they are focused on. Let me give you an example. Bernardo Wundo ran on members first. So he focused on the welfare of members. You understand? Now, the president-elect that we have, President Semakade, and his campaign ran strongly on his track record of rule of law. So it doesn't necessarily mean, to me, it's that and this resonated with most of the voters, that they wanted the message that they picked and the candidate that they chose represented that rule of law is stronger, and with that school of thought that where there is rule of law, the rest of these things, the rest of these objectives can be achieved. For example, where there is rule of law, it means the courts are running efficiently, the learning and training of lawyers is efficient, the service, the role that the lawyers play to the public is also taken care of. So for him, he came as a champion of the rule of law. Okay. So the order that he's bringing is coming from a background where there's members first. We're now looking at rule of law. And that is the order that is coming to emphasize that as a champion of rule of law, given his track record, this is what he brings to the table. And also given the times that we are in, one can say that even the public, we've seen the public interest in these elections. Okay. So it clearly shows that people are urging, people are yearning for rule of law to thrive in this country. Okay. And that's what makes the order.
Later we shall be looking into exactly how the public contributed to the man's wave, or whether it was even something that that played well into his tactics. But Councillor George, I asked the question to Councillor Ochen. If there is need to bang the table in order to restore order, there must be elements of disorder. I'm sure you do agree with some of the aspects that Councillor Ochen talks about, but there are others maybe that may be peculiar to you.
Yes, I entirely agree with Milton, and yes, there is need to bang the table to restore order. And the other aspect of banging the table is to be heard. You can bang the table to be heard. If there is chaos, sometimes, and the disruption is from the other side, you may also bang in order to get the attention of the other side.
That is right.
Chris, you would notice that there's been a number of rule of law issues. If you look at the last election cycle, the general elections, almost all our civil rights that are granted in the Constitution. We are put to test. Issues of detention without trial. We saw extrajudicial killings on the streets. We saw missing persons up to date. We saw torture cases highlighted in the media. So, and the question was, in many times when rights granted under the laws are under the test, lawyers take the lead. That's right. Actually, even in struggles for freedoms, lawyers should always take the lead. Milton has rightly said that the predecessor and a number of other past presidents have largely skirted around, and of course under the current environment. Sometimes institutions which are supposed to be at the forefront, for different reasons, skirt around some of these issues for purposes of maybe. So that's why. So Isaac is inheriting a law society which had put the previous president, predecessor, my friend Bernard, was running under the mantle of members' welfare, members first. So with Isaac coming up with the rule of law issues, like he said, Isaac has an unimpeachable record. He has done a lot of. The first time I met him, I think around 2013, was handling a case of dismissed university students. That's right. So he has had a track record. Yes, Yasin, and Yasin is one of his campaigners. So, the question then becomes, if a house is burning, do you think that the biggest concern would be how smart I am, or whether the compound is not cleaned, or what is the purpose of you?
Or the English.
What is the purpose? Or the English. So, rule of law is at the core of each and every issue in this country. Actually, it's at the core of legal practice. That's right. A number of colleagues who practice what commercial law or land transactions. Just imagine if you get a court order evicting someone from land, and then when you serve it on to the person who was supposed to evict, he says, no, I'm a general, you can't evict me. That's a rule of law issue. That's a rule of law issue. So he resonated with the times. Of course, Isaac, then, his character as a person, he's a person who is extremist in his views, he's extremist in language, he's eccentric in dress code, because he protests, by nature he's a protester. So it resonated with a number of people. And then, of course, he rightly mentions that increasingly the membership of Uganda Law Society is over younger people. There was a time years ago when there was a perception that the leadership of Law Society is agreed upon by some enclave of people, like a popo election. There are some people who sit and decide we want Chris. Now the tyranny of numbers, what you call a tyranny of numbers, broke that cabal, broke that group. That now, even if that group decides to bring this one, these people come out in huge numbers because they are young. Of course, they resonate so much. If you look at the candidates who are standing, I think all of them are below 45. Possibly even the last election before Isaac, the one which brought President Bernard Owondo, they were young candidates. So increasingly, Isaac's message resonated with the biggest bulk of the membership.
Okay. You talk about the fact that previously there was what was seen as a cabal that determined pretty much who becomes president or who is allied to the inner circle. I mean, everywhere, including governments and states, there is the inner circle that is the establishment. In governments like the United States, we know of the protectors of the republic, to the extent that if the president is seen to digress or appear like he's becoming a threat to the republic, that section of people have the ability, both financial and physical in terms of arms, to deal with what is happening. I do suspect, for example, that Isaac Semakade has a huge task ahead to deal with this establishment. First and foremost, settling the scores that they will want either for him to look like he's not performing, and they're going to fight that. Do you see a genuine chance for the establishment lawyers to let Isaac Semakade go on with his agenda? Or maybe the question should be directly is, are they attendant enough to accept that the status quo has changed? Because they are powerful, they have the money. When you look at the farms that they lead, these are big farms. I don't think they have the ability to look at Semakade and say, let's follow his lead and how he's doing things.
Thank you. Again, George told us here, and I entirely agree, the rule of law is supreme. And when we go to break down what the rule of law means, having come from an election, which is a democratic process, and it was a very free and fair election, where even registrations and subscription to participate was even last minute. It is an election that in my years of practice, I've seen things that for the first time. For example, our land brothers and sisters from the Ministry of Justice and DPP and the rest, they were free to come and participate. They were allowed to participate in this election. What I'm trying to drive home is that this election, this outcome, is a will of the people. The majority, the will of the people took the day. And I believe that as lawyers, as senior as they might be, if they, I want to believe that they ascribe to the rule of law. They respect the rule of law. I want to believe that based on that, they have no choice but to accept the will of the people. And if there are any thoughts of not doing so, my appeal to them is that as a society, we need all on board. When a candidate wins, he wins for everyone. Yes, there could be some challenges aside. There could be some challenges accepting the president-elect, those who disagreed with his agenda and the way he ran his campaign. I think it is time to let all that, put all that behind us and focus onto a unified law society that has a statutory mandate to the people of Uganda and its members. So there could be some pushbacks, but I believe that the president, given his track record, if he focuses on what he does best, is not just a man of words, he acts. He's a man of action. He's a man of action. Okay. So it is in the best interest that we all have a unified society and move towards that direction. Okay. He should be given a chance to demonstrate what he ran, the agenda that he ran, the manifesto that he ran, for him to perform that and be able to. But like in any other society, there could be dissenting voices. But at the end of the day, we should appeal to the sense of reason and maturity, regardless of what was at stake during the election.
Okay, let's just stay on the aspect of the challenges that Isaac Semakade will face, especially during his leadership. I think 6 months ago or thereabout, there was a meeting that was held between the bar and the bench. There were concerns that were addressed, including things you talk about when a court ruling is issued. Is it something that can be executed? At what point, for example, judges should stop when it comes to execution of these rulings? I do not know whether the pain points that were addressed then have a chance to see the light of day in terms of rectifying in as far as Isaac Semakade's tenure is concerned. The Chief Justice himself has been in the line of fire from Isaac Semakade, especially with his fiery tongue. How do you see the two working together? Because they must.
Of course, it's, there may be challenges. Of course, you have to appreciate the way in which many times this government looks at people who criticize it. They don't take it many times in good faith. And then, of course, it will also be a test onto Isaac's leadership skills, because, of course, campaign mode is one thing, leadership is another thing. Leadership is another, yeah. Because now he leads a group of people who have divergent opinions. I remember when there was going to be in the 2017 constitutional amendment, and there was an extraordinary general meeting of Uganda Law Society. And the discussion was whether ULS should issue a position on the amendments. And there were some lawyers who were saying, no, because ULS has different, people belong to different parties, we should not issue a position. And I remember, I think it was Professor Sempe who asked if lawyers cannot guide on constitutional matters. Should it be surveyors? Should it be the medical association? who should? So there's a group of people like that in ULS who he leads. And right. Trust me, like we've said, it was one of the most bitter elections we've seen, bitterly fought. Especially with the perception towards the voting day, there was a perception that my brother Tukunda Isaac was a government candidate. There were all sorts of rumors that of state interference, which of course at the end of the day it didn't come to pass. So it will be a test on one, President Isaac, on how he navigates those stormy waters, of how to bang the table when you need to, how to keep quiet when you need to, how to engage when you need to. All those will be a test of his leadership skills. And of course, then on the other side, yes, they can work together, they can work together, because I was in the Supreme Court about 2 months ago, and Isaac was appearing before the Chief Justice. Actually, I remember that.
It must have been a sight.
that very case, I remember one of the lawyers on the opposite side tried to bring up the issue that, Isaac has denigrated this court before, and the Chief Justice said, no, let's move on. So I think the working together is possible. However, of course, Isaac's he has also set a bar very high in terms of expectations. So if we say demilitarization, decolonization,
the 4 Ds.
The 4 Ds. So the question is, how much also can he achieve in the 2 years that he's going to be president? But right. Even if he hits on 1 strong point or 2 strong points, the most important thing that he has achieved already is to see that the ULS, because ULS is not just for lawyers. If you look at the functions, objects of the ULS in the Act, is to help the public on all matters ancillary to the rule of law. That's so right. The public has an interest, and that's one. The mere fact that the public has had an interest in this election is already a win. So how does he navigate also to ensure that the ULS is responsive to the public issues, apart from, of course, the legal aid that it usually doesn't provide? So the relationship can be done, but it should depend on goodwill on both sides, especially the government side.
Okay. I'm glad you talk about storms, and many times storms come with shifting sands. Now, the shifting sands in the legal profession, especially given by the wave that has young lawyers on board, that has also co-opted in those on social media platforms who are largely young, it presents something of an opportunity for the legal profession to begin to align itself to how things are, especially in line with the Gen Z. I do not know whether you lawyers are going to begin to be comfortable to look at things, especially within your workings. I might be naive on this, but please educate me. There are lawyers who are, and this question goes to Ochen, young lawyers who are very uncomfortable, dismayed by the fact that senior lawyers have ring-fenced litigation, have ring-fenced the conduct of duty in firms. They've complained about poor pay. They've complained about the fact that they are left to tasks that are casual, and this is increasingly frustrating them. Maybe it's the reason why they fell and why they went on to the wave and rode with Isaac Semakate. Is this an opportunity for the establishment to begin to look at the needs, attend to the aspirations of young lawyers? Because the perception for many is that if I've chosen to be an advocate, things must look like, yeah, I'm an advocate, not to go and begin to grapple with things as simple as transport refund and lunch. We've had these sentiments from young lawyers. Is that an opportunity for Uganda Law Society to rectify?
Yes, absolutely. I am a parent. Let me start from there. Yeah. And I believe we are all parents here. The children that we have are in many ways different from us. I remember when we were growing up, we could not question our parents on certain things. Yeah. But the children that we have today
question us.
They question us.
And we have to answer in a way that is modest.
Exactly. So you have to reason with them at a certain level. Even a child right now going to a kindergarten can sit with you on the table and say, but Daddy, I saw this, what's the meaning of this? And so we need to first, I pick it from there to understand. So yes, absolutely, it is an opportunity. The times have changed. We've seen the generation Gen Z. They are more aggressive. They are more radical in their approaches. And the message, for example, of Semakade resonated with them. So it is something that it is an opportunity to listen to them. I believe that in every society, there is civilization. We need to sit down with them and discuss with them. And as a society also, some things have been done. For example, there's a Young Lawyers Committee. If it is utilized well and not weaponized as a political tool, that a section might want to be misled be misled as a fraction. You see, it is fortunate that in this particular election we have a president that believes in a radical approach to change things. And so I believe that having elected that president, he will spearhead listening to those young voices that were the majority of the people that voted. So yes, it is an opportunity, and these issues, we can no longer ignore them. We have to sit down on the table, we have to discuss them. But my confidence is in the fact that if we focus on the rule of law, the rule of law takes no sides. The rule of law instills order in every civil society. We are talking about you know, some of the challenges that the young people are facing. If my argument is that if we focus on strengthening or advancing the rule of law, inevitably, by extension, some of these challenges of the young lawyers will be addressed. Let me give you an illustration. The rule of law will increase public confidence in the legal system. And if there's increased confidence in the legal system, it means that there's going to be more trust in the legal system. People will not take the law into their hands. And it is important to point that as lawyers, we play a watchdog's role. If you look at our statutory functions to the public and to government as well, I think section 3 subsection E, 3E, talks about assisting government. So it is very important. So if we have if we have rule of law and it is performing well, we'll have speedy trials, we'll have justice being done. And these young lawyers that we're entrusting with these instructions, the frustration, I believe, will be addressed in one way or another, because they'll be able to perform their duties. A rule of law will also mean, and this is very important, most times we think money should only, you know, we miss the correlation between rule of law and an enabled, thriving business environment. Where there's rule of law, the business is going to thrive. As lawyers, we are going to be where we are supposed to be in as far as our earnings are concerned. Because the environment, when it comes to corruption, it will address that. Some of these frustrations that I've had, for example, with the young lawyers, when they want, for instance, to participate and apply to become, you know, magistrates and so on, they have their own frustrations there. So it is important that if we focus on rule of law, and I expect that it will be an opportunity to address some of the challenges. Okay.
Council Sisi, I know you have a submission on that aspect, but also help us, and it will be a transitory submission that I would love to get onto. He spoke about public perception. This is the power of imagery. I do not know whether this is now the new age where we are going to see lawyers ditch debonair suits like you do appear, and then you begin to appear in court in eccentric manner. After all, the president can do that.
Of course, Milton called Isaac a disruptor, and I agree. The legal profession is conservative. In the manner in which you practice it in Uganda is almost transplanted from the colonial British system. That is why there are things like wigs, the titles, the dress code. Many of those things are transplanted from the British colonial system. Of course, we may not see a very big fundamental change in the 2 years of Isaac's presidency. We're not going to start wearing kilts to court or but most importantly is the message. Sometime back, and I want to relate this, I think when President Owundo was coming in, when we were going into elections for President Owundo, I had a chat with a senior lawyer, then he's now a justice of the Court of Appeal, Justice Chihika, and I said that, and who is the past president of the Law Society, that how comes the election of Law Society no longer attracts people of your caliber, senior lawyers of your caliber? And he said that because times have shifted, because there are many young people, they are angry, they are abusive, so you find that a senior lawyer wouldn't subject themselves to a process of being trolled. And I want
there's general apathy.
There's partly apathy, but then partly ULS is a representative of what is happening outside in the society.
Yeah.
If you look at the demographics in society, 70%, even by the latest U-Boat statistics, are people below 30 of the voters. So that if you don't have a message which resonates with you, you see so many politicians are on TikTok, they're on Twitter, they're on social media, in order to reach out. So the positive disruption that I can get, that I would wish to see from President Isaac, is how far do you harmonize the two positions? How do you marry the colonial, or which colonial aspects can you go with without removing the core of what the legal profession stands for? Of course, for me, I don't want to be overtaken by the dress code and all, but most importantly, the young people in the profession have issues, and those issues actually are not even unique to lawyers. I hear so many young lawyers saying, welfare. Young doctors will talk about the same thing. Young journalists will talk about the same thing. It cuts across. That how far can you be responsive to those issues without breaking the foundations? Because of course there are some trends which are just colonial, which have no bearing with the law. If a judge sits in court with or without the wig, they remain a judge.
Dispensation of justice,
they remain a judge. Yes, that's go ahead. The wig doesn't. I think even it was the late speaker Jacob Olanya who had similar sentiments. The wig doesn't add or do anything away from you. So it's a test, it's a balancing act, because of course this is something that has been around for ages, that has been transplanted, which has no bearing so much on the administration of justice, but how do you marry the two interests of your core constituency? Of course, U.S. President may not do a lot in terms of improving the welfare of the members, because there are other actors. There are other actors like Parliament. How do you bring in legislation which bars? For years now, we've been grappling with the issue of the East African practice, and so on and so forth. Minimum wage issues. All those are issues that are beyond the U.S. President, but which he can do a hand in providing leadership. Okay, and of course, even the tenure, the amount of months one can have to do what they want, of course, is limited. 2 years. Is it 2? It's 1? It's 1 year. 1 year. But the custom has been to allow for somebody to run at least do 2 years, because 1 year is very short. Okay. Now, I would be remiss if I do not get the spotlight onto the presidency of Bernard Owundo, because it formed the sort of foundation that ushered in Semakade. It's not a good idea to discuss the person, but I think let's discuss the tenure and what particular achievements, for example, can the new president ride on to push further those aspects that are important and intimate to the legal fraternity. Thank you. During the presidency of Bernard, he managed to pull off what is called a benevolent fund, and that is for members' welfare, in as far as members are concerned. I think that that is something that can be built on. At the moment, according to the chairperson, my senior land sister Lydia, she said at the moment they're giving 3 million shillings to the family of a deceased lawyer when that lawyer passes on, to grieve with and support them. This is something that can be expanded and then built on. The other thing that Bernard or the presidency or the tenure of that council, because he wasn't acting alone, he was acting with the council, was some visibility in terms of, we've seen lots of statements from Uganda Law Society on almost each and every critical issue that has happened in this country. I believe, and in line with the will of the people, again, given Isaac's track record, we can now transition from just mere statements or issuing statements to action, because I believe that the character of the council most times is shaped. The president does not operate alone. I think that is very important. Very important. There's a vice president, there's a general secretary, there are representatives from the regional areas within Uganda that sit on the council.
we also under the Law Society Act, we should remember that we have the Attorney General and the Solicitor Generals.
Yeah.
And they normally have representatives on that council. So it is important that we move, and that is an opportunity that we can build on that visibility of issuing statements, and then take into action, go to the next step of action. And I believe that can be achieved.
Councillor Sisi, wrap this up for us.
Well, President Bernard, of course, as a leader, every achievement or lack of it is attributed to you. I think he has done, he tried, like we read earlier said, he ran on the mantra of members first, members welfare. Milton has highlighted some of the key things. Of course, at the tail end of his presidency, it's also worth mentioning that he has brought back Law Society home to the ULS house. Remember, we've been renting, has been building, which is a key achievement, and of course they have tried to document rule of law issues. They went into they always launched the idea of quarterly reports, has run through documenting all the rule of law issues and recommendations to government and engaging stakeholders. So I think he has done well. There's a good foundation. We just need now to spur forward, like we mentioned. Fortunately, this president is going to take us into the next general election. That's right. Earlier said that we saw a lot of violations in the last election. We haven't seen a lot to see that there will be a change. So it's very important that Isaac comes in at a very critical time when we're heading into an election, that what is going to be the UNS's role, and that is the question, that what should be the UNS role in the fight for rule of law. So I think that is where he needs to step forward and take us even further than where Bernard left us.
All right, I cannot add anything. All I can say is that congratulations, Isaac Chimaze Semakade, upon winning the presidency of the Uganda Law Society. The onus is on you, and the whole nation is watching how you stir this ship forward, and whether those achievements that have been, of course, registered by your predecessor can be improved upon. It's been a pleasure hosting you, Councillor George Masisi and Councillor Milton Ochen. Many thanks for your submissions and time. That will do it for our Kickstarter discussion, but do stay with us. Morning at NTV does continue.